Hey there, everyone. Welcome to The Great Retention with Camber Parker, sponsored by the Yo Pro Know. I'm Camber, your young professional expert and founder of the Yo Pro Know, where we bring you the answers you need to know about how to hire and retain the best talent, starting with the young professionals you work with. There are a lot of young professional fish in the sea, but how do you catch them and what do you do once you reel them in? That's where we come in. Today, I am so excited to have Tim Justice join us, business and leadership consultant and former owner of ResCom Construction, joining us from Greenville, South Carolina. Tim and I go way back, starting in 2019 when he was my formal mentor for the Greenville Chamber Young Professionals program called Pacesetters. He is responsible for helping me jump many hurdles as I have started my business and has stayed a mentor long after the program. Tim is not only my mentor, but has mentored hundreds of young professionals in both a structured and unstructured capacity for majority of his career. And I wanted to bring him on the show today to talk about just that, mentoring and the impact it can have on young professionals to increase their engagement at work and beyond. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
So I guess we probably looking back at 2019 and Pacesetters, probably would have never guessed that we would be sitting here several years later, but I'm very happy that you're here today. And I know I just gave a little bit of an intro, but I'd love for you to start the episode by sharing a little bit more about your background and something I might have missed.
Okay. It's probably worth noting that I'm the son of a minister. Mm-hmm. So I really got no background in business from my parents. That was kind of foreign to them. Mm-hmm. I grew up in small towns kind of all over North Carolina. Didn't know entrepreneurs. I knew people who worked on farms and in factories and that kind of thing, but no entrepreneurs. So that was foreign to me till later on. I went to Gardner-Webb University, finished in 1982, moved to Greenville. 1 week later, worked as an accountant for a couple different companies here. And started a business with a partner in 1989, May of 1989. It had its ups and downs, but we lasted 30 years, and he and I sold it at the end of 2019, and I'm now retired. So
Are you enjoying your retirement?
Very much so. Very much. I was glad not to have to deal with all the problems that occurred because of COVID. And it's probably also interesting to note that I have two young professional sons, one 26 and one that's 23, and the 23-year-old is now an entrepreneur.
That's right. And feel free to put a little plug in there for Zach as well.
My son, Zach, started a company while he was at USC. About 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and he sells vintage clothing. The name of it is Old School Outfitter. So you can check him out on his website or on Instagram or Facebook.
Awesome. There's a little plug for you, Zach. Yep. And I interrupted you. You're married, Kathy.
I'm married to Kathy. As a matter of fact, tomorrow is my 34th anniversary.
Oh, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for that background. I think that's some good context for everybody. So can you share a memorable experience that you've had working with one young professional or young professionals, plural, in your career, and what was that experience like? Well,
I've been doing the formal mentoring since 2007, like you said, through the Chamber of Commerce. And the guy that I mentor with, he and I usually end up with 10 to 12 young professionals every year. So it's been a lot of folks for a number of years. And each year has some different opportunities, different challenges, and some memorable things. But probably one of the most memorable, a young lady, probably around 2016 or 17, was just a year or two into her business. She, like you, she performed a great service, but was new to running a business and what all that meant. So it was fun for me to help her kind of get her business structured and that kind of thing. And what she does is she hires virtual assistants for companies all over the country. Well, within the last month, Inc. 5000 named her company one of the fastest growing companies in the country.
Wow, that's amazing.
I can't claim credit for that. However, most of the folks that go through our program, Jim and I always tell them we're going to claim credit for anything they do well.
That is true. I can attest to that. But just a side note, so you actually introduced me to Jenna Spencer, who owns Assist Pro, and I now have a virtual assistant through that company, and it's been really cool to watch that company grow, and something I certainly aspire to. So it's really cool that there's that connection too.
And she and I still stay in contact today.
Yeah, that's a trend, I think, between a lot of the pace setters, mentors, and it's just, once again, very, very important network. And I think that's a great segue into the next question.
That's what we hope they will do.
Right.
Some move out of town and move on to other things, but a lot of them do stay in contact. And that's what we hope happens.
Well, I love that. Today, obviously, the theme is talking about mentoring. And so what does mentoring personally mean to you, and what impact has it played on your life?
Well, mentoring is simply a relationship you have with somebody to help teach and guide and give encouragement. I've actually had mentors, people that I considered mentors, that never actually knew that I looked at them that way.
Yeah.
But mentoring has provided me the opportunity to kind of give back to the community and use some of the experiences that I've had to help other people. And quite frankly, some of the experiences I've had in mentoring has provided me at least as much gratification as the success of my own company. It has also provided me the opportunity to continue to get to know the younger generation and see the type of things that they're the challenges that they're facing and that kind of thing. And really, it's kind of helped me in helping to raise my own kids.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, because you've now worked with millennials. Maybe what generation are you?
I'm a tail end baby boomer.
That's tail end baby boomer. I don't want to make any assumptions, but so you, at this point in your career, I mean, you've mentored Gen Xers, you've mentored millennials, now Gen Z. So you've really kind of seen it all. And now your kids are kind of a mix between millennial and Gen Z.
I got 23 and 26.
Right. Well, very interesting. Well, can you share your opinion on formal versus informal mentoring? Because formal, when I look at that, I look at the mentoring program that we met through, because that was more structured, and it was definitely, I had to, you get out what you put in.
Right.
But I would consider that more structured. So can you share your opinion on the two and maybe some other key differences?
Sure. In my opinion, I think a formal mentoring program is probably the most effective. And the reason I say that is, in an informal situation, there's not structure. And you can meet with somebody, you can talk and chat and offer guidance and that kind of thing. And then life gets in the way and you don't meet again for, several months, sometimes maybe never, but there's not nearly as much follow-up unless you've got, unless the mentor really kind of rides hard and sets up some structure. But like I say, life gets in the way a lot of times for both sides, and there's not follow-up and there's not accountability. And so what's said in those meetings, they may listen, but they're not really hearing what's said. And so implementation a lot of times kind of falls by the wayside. So in my opinion, a structured program like the Pacesetter program is more effective. And a structured program within a company may be the most effective.
Yes. And I think a lot of times you hear young professionals are scared to ask sometimes for that advice and ask somebody to be a mentor. And so having that structured program eliminates that barrier for a lot of them. And then you have people that, like me, that just keep following up and asking for questions. But it was because of that structured program that gave me that opening to do that.
And like I said earlier, that I welcome that. That makes me know that what happened previously had some effect.
Yeah, no, it did. It definitely did. What would you say to the people that are part of your generation that I like to call the experienced professionals that don't welcome this kind of behavior from young professionals and don't welcome the opportunity to mentor?
Well, what I would say is they're missing out on what I think is something that provides the real joy in life. Too many people, especially from my generation, get a little self-centered, and they're out for themselves. They're out for their own careers. They're out for, financial gain and that kind of thing. And they never allow themselves to do things like this. And honestly, the joy I get out of life outside of my own family is doing things like this and giving back to the community and seeing, maybe, like I say, maybe I can't take full credit for anything, but just knowing that some little something that I did may have impacted and encouraged someone else to succeed in life.
Yeah. Well, I think there are a lot more people than we think out there that are like that. But for every person that's like that, there are a lot of people that don't want to give that time. And so it's not going to be for everybody, but thank you for doing what you do.
Well, like I say, I enjoy it.
Research shows that when companies find ways to engage their young professionals and give them a roadmap for success, as we like to call it, with clear milestones, they are more likely to stay at a company. So that's based on my own research. It's also data that is provided from sources like Gallup and even Forbes. So what role does mentoring play in engaging and retaining young professionals, in your professional opinion?
Like I said, doing that within a company is extremely effective. And that finding doesn't surprise me at all. Number one, people within a company know the company. They know the job that the young professional is in. They know kind of what opportunities are out there and kind of how to get them from point A to point B. They know the people within the organization and kind of their hot buttons. So I think that's very effective. But you've heard me use the analogy before about the jigsaw puzzle. And when anybody's assembling a jigsaw puzzle, the first thing they do is look at the box top. And the box top basically is what it's supposed to look like when it's finished. And in life and in business, that is vision. The clearer you can make your box top, the easier it is to put the pieces in place. So if someone in an organization can help a young professional put together a box top or a roadmap, it helps them to know, okay, inevitably, I want to, 10 years down the road, I would like to be at X within this company. Now that enables them to visualize where they want to go. Now it enables them to say, okay, here are the steps that I need to take in order to get that. Here are the people that I need to associate myself with. Here are the organizations that I need to be a part of. Here's the education that I need to attain in order to get to where I'm going. And all of that, it creates some stability. It creates, everybody likes stability and they like to know kind of where things are going. And so if you can do that within an organization, I would assume that's going to cause people to want to stay with the organization and have a little bit of predictability in their life.
Yes. And that's a really important point, because something that surprises people is that millennials and Gen Zers, I hate saying it that way, but the Gen Zers, we are seeking that financial stability and that structure. And so predictability, being able to predict what's going to happen, like having a roadmap or seeing the box top, is really critical to our success and staying at a company. And that's because of the things that have happened in our lives, right? We've watched our parents go through a recession. Now we're experiencing some form of a recession ourselves as young professionals. And so all of it is behavior driven based on the experiences we've had. And so I think that the predictability point is really key.
Well, I mean, that's a great point about the possible recession. Thinking about the young professionals of today, unless they're in their late 30s, they've never experienced a recession. And so I'm sure that's got some folks a little anxious. And so having mentors, like I've been through 4, 3 of them as a business owner and one of them as I was coming out of college. So I know what it's like and I know how to kind of help prepare for it. And I know, the ups and downs. And I also can encourage and let people know, yeah, it's going to happen at some point, but it doesn't last forever.
Right. And you put me at ease when I came to you because I was starting a business when we started to see the numbers and what our economy was doing this year in 2022. And so I appreciate that. I think having, again, mentors that can kind of guide you through those uncertain times are really important.
Well, the one thing that I can encourage people when it comes to recession, I started a business and hit a recession 6 months later. And in the construction industry, that's difficult.
Right.
We made it through.
Yeah. Well, I hope that I have the same luck. Since you have worked with so many young professionals throughout the course of your career, what are some of the key findings that you may or may not have already shared today that you've learned about what young professionals want and need in a mentor?
Well, what typically happens in our in the Pacesetter program is we'll get 10 to 12 young professionals each year. And when they come in, most of them don't really know what to expect. So the first thing as a mentor is to help the mentees, determine expectations. And I think what most young professionals want is first, encouragement, and second is to be able to kind of help be guided toward what they want to do for the future. And then what steps do I need to take to get there? I mean, every year we have people in there who during the year they decide this isn't what I want to do. What can you help me decide, what's the next path? We also have folks in there who are on the leadership ladder for corporations and all of a sudden decide they want to become entrepreneurs. So I think most young professionals are looking for guidance. They're looking for a way to really dream and come up with their box top, and then encouragement and a roadmap to get from where they are to where they want to go.
I think that's spot on. And who better to talk about it than you, because you've experienced it for a long time working with all young professionals. So in our last few minutes together with this episode, would love to ask this final question before I ask for any final advice. As a growing number of young professionals enter the workforce and the Gen Xers, the boomers start to retire, where do you see the biggest challenge?
Well, the biggest challenge for companies is going to be finding the talent. It's my understanding that we've got about 10,000 boomers retiring every day. So that's, you run that out, that's over 3.5 million retirees every year. And that's probably going to continue for at least the next 10 years, maybe longer. So finding the folks to replace the boomers and then the Gen Xers is going to be difficult. The challenge, I think, for the young professionals, especially in today's environment with the virtual working and that type of thing, I think one challenge they're going to have is being able to create teamwork, get to know people within the organization, and understand kind of where they want to go, understand what opportunities are going to lie out there. Because if you're not around the people in the organization and you don't get to know them and you don't see what opportunities are there, how are you going to prepare? So I think, that's the challenge for companies. How are they going to train up that next generation to take over those roles? And then how are the young professionals going to prepare themselves if they're not there to see it? Absolutely.
And, the boomers are leaving and they're mostly in leadership positions. So not just replacing the talent from an entire workforce standpoint, but really replacing the leadership is, I think, the biggest area of trouble that we might see. And so recognizing that young professionals are not just the bottom line, they're the future leaders of the workforce is a shift that I think everyone will start to take in the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
So any final words of advice before we end today to the businesses that might be listening or watching?
Well, I think the one big thing is I would advise, people of my generation and even those younger, put yourself out there. Allow yourself to mentor other people. It's if you've never done it before, it's probably scary. You probably think I really have nothing to offer, but you have your experiences to offer. Really, I see as a mentor, I have two things to uniquely offer the young professionals. Number one, I have my experiences. What have I done right and what have I done wrong? Now, doing the things I've done wrong is probably outweigh what I've done right, but I'm willing to share those to say, okay, here's what I tried. It didn't work. I would encourage you to do this, this, and this. The second thing I have to offer is my network of people. And that's what I do in large part with the young professionals is I bring in my friends who have been successful and they have, they've come about success in a lot of different ways. So the people that we're mentoring are able to, at some point, they'll relate to at least one of those folks and enable them kind of form their box top and to say, I love their story. I love what they did. And that way they can kind of have someone, and these folks all are willing to put themselves out there and give back as well. So they're able to find someone that they can call and they can, sit with and talk to and say, okay, how did you do this? How did you get from here to there? So that's the one thing that I would like to do is just encourage other people to give back. And it really is, it's not a difficult thing, just sharing your life, sharing your experiences, introducing them to friends of yours, and it will give you a lot of joy in life and a lot of gratification.
Yeah. Well, I often say that one of the biggest reasons that I've been successful in my business thus far and hope to be even more successful in the future is because of people like you in Greenville and this community of people, of mentors that have really guided me and made those connections for me and paved the way. So thank you again for all that you've done for me.
I'm glad to do it. And I think Greenville is made up in large part of people that want to do that.
I think so too.
And they're looking for nothing in return.
Right. And that's what helps raise the next generation of leaders.
True.
So thank you again, Tim, for being on the show today. It's been really great having you.
Well, thank you very much. I've enjoyed being here.
Thank you all again so much for joining us on The Great Retention with Camber Parker. Before you go, remember this. Young professionals make up nearly half of the workforce today and are expected to jump at a rapid pace in this decade. What will you do as future business leaders to help these guys become the next great leaders we need for our future? Join us next time for more information on how to recruit and retain young professionals. And if you liked this episode today, please leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast. This helps others know where to find episodes about this topic, and don't forget to share with your peers at work. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.